So this might be a situation where I might like the clone better than the original. Today we're going to be taking a look at a newer one from Lattafa, and this one is Asad. So I've been trying to cover some more clones lately, as you guys have probably noticed. Main reason being is that everything's expensive right now. When you've got gas over $5 a gallon and the price of everything increasing, that's going to start to cut into your hobby budget, right? And so if you guys want to save a little bit of money and at least tide yourself over until things turn around for the better, and then you can start getting some of the real things, clones really aren't a bad way to go, especially when you can get them for a good price. And in the example here, we've got Asad costing around $20 to $30, somewhere around in there. And you've got Dior Sauvage Elixir costing you upwards of $150 or something like that, and this one has not really been discounted all that much yet. We're also taking a look at a big discrepancy between the bottle sizes here. So yeah, if you're on a budget, if the clone is good, that's going to be the way to go. And also, one thing that I have said before is that if you're paying a bunch of money for subpar clones, then in that instance, it may not be the way to go, because you could save all of that money and just buy the real thing. But in this instance here, this is a situation where the alternative or the clone is so good that it's a no-brainer if you're on a budget. And like I said in the very beginning there, I like some parts about this better than the real deal. And so we're going to talk about that. This one's actually been requested quite a bit. It came out last year, right? Same time as Elixir. But I don't know, just kind of popped up here recently as an interest that people have been kind of looking into. And so I've had this bottle around for a while now, testing it, wearing it, and I'm just going to go ahead and run through the entirety of the scent. Everything from smell to performance to mass appeal, how close it is to Elixir, and whether or not you should get it. So for those of you who are unaware, Dior Sauvage Elixir is a very different take on Sauvage. There are still bits and pieces of that Sauvage DNA in there, but it's so much more mature that it almost puts it in a league of its own. And the way I've described it is that it is Sauvage for people who don't like Sauvage, right? Very, very simple. If you don't like the overwhelming amount of ambroxan, bergamot, and black pepper that Sauvage EDT and even EDP kind of acquires, then you're in luck, because Elixir doesn't really have any of that. It's got licorice, it has sandalwood, nutmeg, a bunch of warm, spicy notes in addition to the lavender that really put it in a league of its own. There's still a faint Sauvage DNA lingering in it, so that way they can call it a flanker, but it is really a complete overhaul. And so because of that, you know, a lot of people are going to resonate with it, especially the older audience. You know, the majority of my audience, believe it or not, according to YouTube analytics, which I would only assume to be accurate, right, would be from 25 to 34. Okay, and that's a pretty decent stretch there. And also, you know, it's not really the youngest audience either. I mean, it's young, but when you think about cologne, a lot of the times you may be thinking about guys who are teenagers in high school just trying to get those compliments, right? But 25 to 34 is a nice stretch. I'm not even in that category yet. But this fragrance here is probably really going to appeal to the upper end of that spectrum, and also into the 40s and 50s and 60s, somewhere around in there. Not saying that a young guy can't pull it off, because I like Sauvage Elixir, but it's something worthwhile to note. And so when you spray Lattafa Asad on for the first time, immediately you get that Sauvage Elixir DNA. That kind of mature, refined, spicy, and kind of older school smell to it in a way, more traditional smell. One thing that I find initially when you spray the Lattafa on is that it's sweeter. There's the addition of vanilla in this one that you get right off the top. So it's that Sauvage Elixir opening, but with that vanilla note, adding a little bit of a sweet balance, kind of making it a bit more smooth in some ways. And that's kind of the main thing that I like better about Asad, is that vanilla note. I'm a big fan of that note, and used in this type of way here, I really like it. We'll take a look at the note breakdown, because there really isn't a whole lot to it. We've got spicy notes, vanilla, amber, clove, and sandalwood. They're not even ranked here, just that's all that they give us here. And so of those notes, of course, you get the spices, okay? A whole bunch of them. Kind of like a cinnamon, nutmeg type of thing going on, a hint of pepper, right? You know, just your typical spicy note, but it's a warm spice. Vanilla, as I just mentioned, you pick up on it. And then the clove. The clove is something that you do pick up on, and that's the part where some people may get thrown off. Kind of similar to the licorice in Elixir, right? That's also a note where people might smell it, get down to the dry down, and then start thinking, maybe this isn't for me, because I will admit, I can smell this here and Elixir and go, okay, yeah, I can see where people wouldn't like this, right? It's very realistic to be able to pick that out and be able to see the fact that not everyone will like this scent, right? It's just how it is. It's more mature, it's warmer, it's richer, it's just different, right? And in a good way as well. You also get a heavy dose of sandalwood here in this one, and that's kind of also helping to smooth it out, because like I said, you've got the clove, which is adding a bunch of texture and this kind of also spicy kind of herbal smell that some people may not expect. You've got, of course, the spicy notes, kind of vague, but you do get a lot of them there. And so to have the sandalwood, and the vanilla, and the amber, it helps to really give this one a nice balance to where it's not leaning too far in one direction or the other. Without that balance, you would end up with something that's way out of whack and that most people probably wouldn't like. And on top of that, you would end up with something that doesn't really smell like Sauvage Elixir at all. Because even Sauvage Elixir has that balance going on, from that lavender to that licorice, kind of a contrast there. And then also, of course, a good dose of sandalwood helping to add to smooth it out, right? There's a lot going on between the both of these scents to really create something that is just a unique wearing experience. Aside from having hints of the Sauvage DNA, there's really nothing else out there that smells like Elixir, or in this case, Asad, right? They're just different scents, and I encourage you to try them if you're kind of wondering about them or you're curious, because I think you'll be impressed. So it is important to note here that with Sauvage Elixir, it's a parfum concentration. They've got that thing cranked all the way up. It's a heavy hitter. With Lattafa Asad, this is an eau de parfum. So, I mean, that's not terrible. And at the end of the day, concentration only matters as much as the performance does. So you can have an eau de toilette that will last 12 hours, and you can have a parfum that will last 8. Okay, so it really doesn't matter in terms of performance, not always. But it's something that I did want to throw out there just so you know. And talking about that performance, this eau de parfum here on my skin has been getting around that 8-hour mark, 8 up into the 9-hour mark for longevity, which is really solid, especially when you consider the price. Now, is this as strong and as beastly as Elixir? On my skin, personally, it's not. Elixir still takes the cake on performance, but at the same time, Elixir is also so absurdly strong that I don't really expect most, if any at all, clones to touch the performance of that one, at least in this type of price range. It's ridiculous. It really is. And for Elixir, I don't need that much performance. It's cool to have, and it's cool to be able to talk about, but it's not necessary, at least for me. I don't need that much, but, you know, to each their own. And so with Asad, that 8 to 9 hour mark there is decent, and I can't complain at all. In fact, that's right where I like it. Sillage and projection is a little bit on the softer side for me. Does a better job at leaving a trail, doesn't project so far in terms of distance, whereas Elixir kind of does a bit of both. It will project a long ways if you're just standing still, but it will also kind of suspend that scent into the air and leave a really nice trail. So performance, of course, Elixir is going to take the cake here, but you're also paying an absolute premium for that one, so it does make sense. But at the end of the day, for the savings that you get, most people are going to be more than happy with the performance out of this one here. Although, if you're not, you just might have to cough up the money and go for the real deal. That's just kind of the compromise that you have to decide what is right for you. You know, it just does have more of a classic feel. And so, again, I'm cautioning my younger audience out there to be smart about it, okay? You're not going to be able to really probably find a sample of Asad. It's still relatively new. There's so many clones out there. Your best bet would probably be to get a sample of Elixir or walk into a department store and smell it there. And if you like the smell of it and you want to save money, then go for Asad. You're going to like this one. In fact, I would say that Asad is probably going to be more mass-pleasing overall, given that heavier dose of vanilla and the fact that it is all around a touch sweeter, okay? It's very, very close, like remarkably close to Elixir. The only difference is that sweetness, like I mentioned, which for me, I actually prefer. I really like how this one smells. And I could almost find myself reaching for the clone more than the OG just because it's softened up a little bit more. The addition of vanilla here was a genius idea, and making it somewhat prominent, at least in comparison to what Elixir would be, was a really nice move because it's just easier to pull off. So if you want mass appeal above all, this is an instance where I would say the clone would probably be the better bet. But that's just my opinion. Alrighty guys, that's going to do it for me. That was my take on Lattafa Asad. Really, really impressive. I mean, I got to admit, the brand here has been doing a great job at putting out some affordable alternatives, and this is yet another one. If you want to grab this one, I will link it down below. That's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.